Hello and welcome back to the Getting Dressed podcast. I am Anthony Bolognese.
And I'm Leah Nalepa.
And today we are talking about fashion faux pas and our personal style pet peeves. I'm starting this episode off with one that I literally saw on my way here. The last place that I saw a congressman wearing, from the ankles up, a pretty standard business casual wardrobe outfit. That's the right word. Had a couple drinks at this last thing too. So
yeah, there you go.
But on the bottom, he was wearing Adidas Ultra Boosts.
Oh.
No, absolutely not, dude. And this thing was broadcast on live TV too. He wore Adidas Ultra Boosts with dress pants and a sport coat on live TV.
I don't love it.
That was a conscious decision. I hate the city for that reason.
I know. And I feel like that has become such a popular look too.
It sucks.
But it's more, I mean, let's be honest, it's more like street casual, not business casual or business professional.
Yeah. I own several pairs of Adidas Ultra Boosts, and you will never in my life catch me wearing that with a jacket. Yeah. Tracksuit, maybe. But that's not me.
But what about the people, this is just playing devil's advocate here, who want to be more up with the times or trendy? Because, I mean,
there's
clearly
trendy
he's
and then
trying to
wrong.
lean in. Touche. Okay, I agree with you. I do agree with you for the record.
Oh, I know. I'm not defending myself to you. Just like in general. If this is a PSA for anybody out there, don't do that.
So one of my pet peeves for men is when they don't unbutton their sports coat when they sit down. Mm-hmm. It's just like this awkward stretch around the belly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are we doing? Are we trying to pop a button off your jacket right now?
Yep. You get those whiskers. The cat whiskers coming off.
Yes, it's so
It's the same look as when you
awkward.
just are wearing a jacket that's too small for you.
Right,
It's
exactly.
the exact same look, except it's a well-tailored jacket. Even if it is a well-tailored jacket, it'll look like that. It sucks. And I also hate seeing people with both of their buttons buttoned.
Yes.
That's the one time that I will actively go up to a stranger on the street and tell them not to do that.
Of course you will.
Not aggressively.
Excuse me, sir.
But just like, hey, just an FYI, only the top button.
And they're like, who are you, punk?
I get some people that are confused and a little bit annoyed, and some people are just like, oh, okay.
Well, honestly, I feel like a lot of people just haven't heard some of these things before, and they're like,
oh, yeah.
I guess this is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, like, I understand the rationale of people who button both buttons just because they don't know, because, like, theoretically, why are there two buttons if you only button one? But
exactly.
There's history behind that, but I'm absolutely drawing a blank right now.
I actually don't remember. I read an in-depth book called The Suit about
I think you recommended this book to me like 2 years ago.
It's highly meticulous about the suits for men. Don't remember the history of the particular buttons, but it does go in depth about it. So that's just a side note. You should look that up sometime.
Noted. Give a quick synopsis of that book, because I forget what you said and also the audience in general.
Okay, quick synopsis is basically it goes into every detail of men's suiting. Okay, the importance of suits, why men wear suits, the history of suits, business casual looks, business professional looks, why taller men should wear certain looks, why shorter men should wear certain looks, and how everything balances out. I mean, it goes so much into detail about buttons, length of coats, of your pant line, where it should hit in your ankle, on your shoe, etc. So if you're looking for a good, highly detailed read about a suit, that's definitely the book for you. I can't remember the name of the author because it's a pseudonym, and it is written by a professor here at Hillsdale who is very trendy.
Noted. All right, so that explains why you know it. Interesting though.
But
so
I did read it.
So basically the book is just this podcast, just less fun.
100%. Maybe a little more detailed than this podcast. I'd say we're like the 30,000 foot level. Sometimes we take a deep dive and then we go back up.
Yeah. But no, that is interesting. I did while she was talking about the book, I did look up why suits have two buttons, and it's not what I remembered, and it's also really dumb.
What is it?
They just used to straight up have two buttons that you used, and then some king got too fat for his suit and only started buttoning one, and then the tradition stuck. So doesn't bode well for my strict adherence to that practice. But I will continue. I think it looks.
You have nothing to back you up here.
Well, I just think it looks stupid, and I would argue that it absolutely does.
I agree. Okay, so again, rhetorical question-ish. if someone doesn't want to button any buttons, is it worth it? Like, can they just leave their jacket unbuttoned?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, how else are you going to get it off?
Well, I wanted to hear your thoughts. Like, I mean, is it a pet peeve that if someone just like leaves their jacket unbuttoned always?
No. The only time I think that's slightly less acceptable is with a double-breasted jacket.
Yes.
Double-breasted jackets, you just leave buttoned. You basically treat them as an additional layer of your full outfit. Like, generally speaking, if you're wearing a double-breasted jacket, you're not even going to take it off, like, to make your look a little bit more casual.
Okay.
It stays buttoned, and you're kind of on the top tier of formal, I guess, under tuxedo.
That makes sense.
Most times. I actually had a friend about 2 hours ago text me. He's going up to the Northwest for a wedding or something, and he was asking me for style advice. And he sent me a picture of somebody wearing a double-breasted jacket with a quarter zip sweater underneath it.
Interesting.
And again, absolutely not.
I feel like there's so many focal points of that outfit that it's distracting more than anything else.
Yeah, and like the shininess of the zipper.
Yes.
That at least in the image that he sent
That's exactly what I'm picturing. I'm picturing like a silver zipper down this thing.
And it doesn't go far enough. Like, I'm not saying that it would be more excusable for it to go all the way down,
right,
like, to under the lapels, but no, it's just too distracting. And a double-breasted jacket is inherently, like I said, more formal.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, well, what about a tuxedo? What about a turtleneck under that? And I was still like, unless you're going for like a decidedly monochrome look, I don't think that that's the good move, because you're kind of blending casual and formal in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
I love a turtleneck with like a sport coat or, something single-breasted or even just a full suit look, but not a double-breasted suit look. I think that's too much of a blend of casual and formal.
That's fair. I could get behind that. I don't particularly have a hard opinion on it like you do, but I
didn't realize I had this opinion until he sent me that image as reference. Like, this is what I'm thinking. And
you're like, absolutely not. That's fair.
Not that I have anything against quarter zips. I mean, we see them all too much here, but they have their purpose.
They
Just
do.
Don't layer on top of them unless it's like a functional piece of outerwear.
Yeah, like maybe a vest.
What?
Why not?
Absolutely not.
Well, there's another Anthony pet peeve, apparently.
Wait, explain the vest that you mean. Like,
just like
verbalize this outfit.
Like a normal puffy vest if you're just outside. I'm picturing the fall. It's like 50 degrees.
I momentarily forgot that puffy vests exist. I genuinely thought you meant like a suit vest. I probably had a deer in the headlights look when you said that.
You did. And I was like, I don't think it's that controversial of a look.
Okay. Yeah, that's immediately less criminal in my brain to see that. I would still have to see it, and I it's definitely not within my wardrobe.
That's fine.
But
yeah, that's fine.
There's a difference between pet peeves, like,
and what you just don't like,
and
what you like.
What's just straight up wrong.
Fair.
So, okay, we should probably explain our perspective and our difference between fashion faux pas and our pet peeves, because we kind of lumped both of them in the intro. So
yes. Fashion faux pas are like, no, you're actively going against the Bible of fashion and you really shouldn't be. Whereas our pet peeves are things that we're just annoyed by in the fashion and style industries.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have another fashion faux pas then. I have a lot of them. And some of them
this might be a longer episode because there are so many of
There's so many. We might have to have a part 2 eventually.
Also a thing.
So fashion faux pas is underwear lines. This is particularly evident for women.
Yeah.
And
although men are absolutely not exempt from this.
No, they are not.
Men, pay attention.
Especially when men wear tighter and tighter pants.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just saying people are
pants,
looking. Okay, like it's there, and we don't want to see your underwear lines.
Yeah.
But for women in particular, I think they struggle with this because for some reason this is a very taboo topic, and I'm not totally sure why. And it's just very inappropriate. As you know, I recently got into a LinkedIn debate about this. But my personal opinion is that there are a variety of reasons that women choose to wear the undergarments that they choose. Sometimes for health, sometimes for looks, sometimes none at all. Let's be real. But I think it's incredibly important to be cognizant of what types of undergarments are showing under your clothes, because ultimately they aren't meant to show.
Yeah.
And so
under is the key.
Under is the key. Exactly. And so when you're wearing a form-fitting dress or you're wearing tight pants, it's like, I don't want to see the underwear that's clinging to your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Or quite frankly, when your bra strap, because it's not tight enough around your shoulders, falls out from underneath your tank top and just like hangs low on your arm. That's also completely inappropriate. It's like, find a different bra. We have too many options these days. And then I think for men, and obviously I think you can speak to this a little bit more, is when they're wearing these tight pants, especially, you know, I think the trendier look for suits is when you can see like these boxer brief type lines like mid-thigh.
Is that a trend? Is that something that people actively do?
No, I'm saying the trend of tighter pants.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying
exacerbates that. I was going to say, the way you said it, it kind of sounded like the new trend is to have underwear lines.
The new trend is not to have underwear lines. The tighter pants are the underwear. Or is it, the tighter pants are the
cause.
Trend. Yes.
We're both doing great today.
We're doing great.
We're still new to podcasting.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll get used to it.
And
but,
so
yeah.
I'm just not, I cannot get over that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Again, you have the better perspective for women, but let's be honest, we've all seen it. We all look. And I will definitely agree with you on the tighter pants exacerbate the situation for men. I've actually started buying underwear specifically that have like a lower inseam for that reason, because it's just way easier to deal with.
Yeah.
I am not endorsed by them. I would take this money in a heartbeat, even just free underwear for the rest of my life, because I love this brand so much. But Tommy John makes the best underwear I've ever worn in my life.
I will say I also have Tommy John underwear, and
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Because I know I
completely validate this
a while ago to you. But for more reasons than I'm going to mention now. But my most recent order from them was like the super short inseam. They're like boxer briefs. And I just don't have to worry about that anymore. They're a very thin fabric. And they don't have that issue. They make ones that go further down the thigh, and especially with tighter pants, I find that, you know, they will roll up a little bit. So you kind of have to go through the same motion and process of like tucking in your shirt, but like tucking in your underwear, I guess.
Right. Which
to be a single line.
Imagine would get awkward.
Well, it's just a part of getting dressed. Maybe it is to me. It's not something that people are usually used to, so it might be a new thing to add to your routine, but it's definitely necessary for both genders. Yeah.
So that is just move on, get the seamless underwear, get the lower inseams like you're talking about, get the thongs.
And another undergarment that I think people have an issue with, and this is, I would say, less oppressive than the underwear and bra line thing, just undershirts. Like no matter what time of year, I see a lot of people with undershirts on that are incredibly contrasted to either their skin or the garment that they're wearing. So like I'm wearing a white dress shirt right now. Can you tell that I have an undershirt on?
No. Because
that's a super, super low V. It goes down to like a couple inches below my nipples, like just in case I want to get crazy with how open my my buttons are on this thing.
I didn't know they made the V's that low.
Oh, that is the only acceptable option in my opinion. Just for comfort's sake, not for like fashion's sake, but they're super comfortable. I forget that I have them on. And it's also the roughly same color as my skin. Because a lot of people a lot of people will buy the like solid white undergarments, and really no matter what your skin tone is, nobody is solid white. Yeah. So it just doesn't work.
Well, actually, quick question for you there. So I have seen the trend where a lot of men have decided not to wear undershirts and have just kind of forgone those. What are your thoughts on that?
Totally fine.
Totally fine. Okay.
I mean, honestly, a lot of the reason that I wear them is comfort, and even during the hotter months, I would rather sweat into an undershirt than sweat into my dress shirts, because they're custom. I don't want to get them dry cleaned weekly, but it's also just a comfort thing. Like if I'm wearing like a thicker shirt, or if I'm wearing any normal shirt, honestly, that's even a little bit more abrasive, like with a graphic on the front or something like that, like it can get chafy a little bit. So having a layer to kind of break that up underneath is super nice.
That's fair. Okay, I totally agree with that. Undershirt situation.
Yeah. And this is transitioning from the faux pas back to a pet peeve. I very much dislike when crew neck undershirts are worn without a tie. If you unbutton your shirt, I don't think that you should have your undershirt visible. That's why I fully advocate for at least a mild V-neck, because it just looks like a sloppy, unprofessional look. Like kind of in the same way that you mentioned having like being able to see someone's bra strap, or being able to see someone's underwear lines. if you unbutton your shirt and we can see your undershirt, that's an undergarment. It's not inherently as genital related, but it still has that same kind of sloppy look.
Yes.
And I very much don't like that.
Yes.
Same under quarter zips, bringing it back to the
and under sweaters, like a scoop neck sweater, and someone throws, or excuse me, a V-neck sweater, and someone throws a scoop neck undershirt underneath. I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing?
And I also, a lot of the time, will wear, especially for like cashmere and nicer fabric stuff, I will absolutely wear an undershirt under those sweaters to preserve the fabric.
Right.
Even though cashmere is deliciously comfortable, it's amazing. I still want to preserve that. I don't want to sweat into it. If I find myself in a warmer situation, I just want to protect it.
Which is totally fair. It's just whether it shows or not.
Yep. V-neck all the way. Oof. If they're not still around anymore, but all of my V-necks or all of my undershirts are from ribbed tee. They closed down like before the pandemic. And it's a bummer because I could definitely use a re-up.
That is a bummer.
So I'll have to do some product research and get back to you guys on recommendations for that.
So speaking of pet peeves, continuing the strain, but in a completely different topic.
Bring it on.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when women can't walk in heels. I'm like, you look like a baby giraffe that was just born.
Yep.
And I cannot.
It's really funny. But how often are you seeing that it's like an active pet peeve?
Okay, it doesn't happen much in DC, which again, I know this is not location specific for a podcast, but when I go usually, honestly, to other areas of the country, or if I see, quite frankly, one of my friends who usually doesn't wear heels and decides to wear heels for that one special evening event, that's when I see it. And I'm like, in what world is this okay? And so I get frustrated when the person who claims they don't like heels or they don't feel comfortable in heels decides to then wear heels because they feel like they should or they must for some reason, for some event. And then they look funny and wobbly and like they're awkwardly bent over because they can't walk in said heels. Yeah. And I just cannot get over that.
So what would you say the answer is to that person? Is it walk in heels or is it adhere to your supposed beliefs and wear something that's not heels?
So I think there's a couple different answers. Like usually when I'm seeing this, it's a more professional event or it's like a dressy cocktail or black tie event. And so there's a plethora of options out there for shoes. So it could be find a fancy pointed toe flat because that automatically elevates your look. Like if it's pointed toe, it could be shimmery, metallic, maybe beaded, pearled, sequin. Like there's a lot of fun, pretty options out there. The second thing would be, I guess the second tier of ease, if you will, is get a low block heel. There's some, again, plenty of colors and fabrics out there for the block heel, and it's really in right now. It's easy to walk in, and it's almost just like a step above, literally, a step above a flat. And then finally, if you're really wanting to wear the stiletto or strappy sandal, practice walking in your house before you wear it outside so that people like me aren't judging you. But
another thing kind of along those similar lines, and this is not a pet peeve of people's decisions more than it is a pet peeve of the industry. Although I guess buying decisions do kind of factor into this. Women in pencil skirts that do not allow for any movement. And this is not exclusive to pencil skirts necessarily. I think it's just any clothing that's too tight on a person that affects the way that you walk or exist in that clothing. Like if you physically cannot bend down to pick up a pen or a fork or something, then you need less skin hugging clothing.
That's true. And that's not to say that doesn't look good on you, but it means it's too tight in certain areas of your body.
Yeah, I mean everything can be tailored to still look good, but give you the range of motion that you, I mean, I would hope want.
Yes.
And at worst need.
Yes.
Like it's just, you know, I think you should strive for your clothing to be functional as well as fashionable. But, you know.
Speaking of that, I put on these pants and they were a little snug this morning and I have worn them.
COVID-20.
I'm like, oh boy, I haven't worn these in a hot minute. And I was just like, why not? Let's wear orange pants. And then said orange pants were a little snug.
Honestly, I'm kind of feeling the same about these. But I was a little bit behind schedule leading. So.
Yep, same. Yep. So I was like, we're going for it. These are the only pants that were ironed, so.
Yep. That just means I'm not eating at this event.
Exactly.
All right. What else is on your list?
So, man, there's a couple different ones. This is a fashion faux pas, to kind of go back to that. Nylon tears. So when a woman is wearing nylons, which is a little bit more rare these days, I realize, or even tights. Let's say tights. Mm-hmm. And there's a rip or a tear in the nylons.
And it just shows throughout the entire warp or weft of that fabric.
Yes.
Yep.
It is completely unacceptable for your outfit. And I've been there, right? And I totally get it. But if it's appropriate, either like remove them and like hopefully your skirt length is long enough. If it's not long enough, then go buy a new pair like at CVS or Walgreens. Like they have different options there for the enduring part of the day.
Mm-hmm. And there's definitely, for those that don't immediately understand what we're talking about, there's a difference between having like a loose thread, which is
yes,
a theoretically easy thing to take care of, and having an actual nylon tear. So these are for the, would you call them undergarments? Because they're external, but they kind of serve an under purpose. I
wouldn't necessarily call them undergarments.
What category would you put them in?
If they're tights, I would almost say an accessory, because usually those are the different colors, like navies, maroons, greens, patterns. If they're actual nylons, maybe I would probably put them under the undergarment.
The thinner the fabric is, the worse this problem is going to look, because it's going to pull all the way up that individual, warp and weft of the fabric, meaning, the north to south pieces of fabric, or the pieces of thread that are going through that fabric, and the east to west ones that are kind of creating that woven look.
Yeah.
For nylon tears, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. Someone wearing tights or Spanx or something like that have that just long line of closer to their skin tone than the darker look on the outside. It's
it's so unclassy.
Bad look.
Honestly.
I mean, it can happen from like a hangnail or something, and like it's easy to do. I completely understand that, but it kind of ruins the composure of an outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it can be frustrating because, again, I've been there, and I'm not even opposed to like, oh my goodness, you have a little bit of a rip in, your toe and it's covered by your shoe. Not a big deal at all. Like, I get that. You try to milk your nylons for everything that they're worth. But after
milk your nylons just doesn't sound good. Like, I don't intend on us really having merch. I don't
love it.
But I don't want a shirt that says milk your nylons.
That just
sounds
it.
Not good. Anyway, sorry to cut you off there. That was just the first thought that I had.
Okay, that's true. But anyways, it's just not classy to me at all. Mm-hmm. So
another fashion faux pas that is equally a pet peeve, and I think one of my most aggressive pet peeves, is for men and women, but I definitely see it far, far more with men. Not cutting the basting thread or tags off of your jackets.
Yes.
The tags, a lot of people who, especially I find people who want to buy more name brand suits, will leave the tag on the wrist that says the name of that brand. That the function of that tag is exclusively when it's on the rack, it just shows you who made that suit while you're peering through, the sleeves of every jacket that you see.
Right.
Once you get that thing home, take it off.
Yes.
Because it just looks super, super tacky. It's the equivalent of buying anything and just leaving like the size sticker on, or the quality assurance label or something, like just any sticker. It sucks. Mm-hmm. And then basting thread. This could either be, for some garments, they'll have it along the seams on your shoulder. Most garments will have it on the vent or vents on the back of the garment. It's a little X, usually in white thread. Cut it. Your vents are functional. They should open. They allow for movement. And not having that, the second you move, that vent starts to bow out and open, but not in the proper way. And it looks bad.
Looks super tacky. I literally just saw this past weekend.
Yep.
With someone I was working with, actually. And I was just like, this is not okay. But I didn't have the heart to tell him. So.
Why didn't you have the power to tell him?
No, I had the power. I didn't have the heart.
Well, call me.
I will. I'll have you call him next time.
Unbutton your second button and cut that basting thread.
Yeah. So I completely agree with you.
Another men's, I'm going to limit this to men. Women, I think, can get away with it a little bit more just because you'd have a smaller frame in general. Mm-hmm. Thin lapels. It was trendy for a very brief amount of time. Mm-hmm. The first thing I think of is like NBA, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Huge guys with razor thin lapels. Lots of fast fashion houses were doing it. I know H&M has very thin lapels. I know Express has very thin lapels. And it can look acceptable on some people. Mm-hmm. But unless you are twig thin, you need wider lapels. I mean, I'm a 38 to 40, depending on how much I eat. And
because that broadens your shoulders.
Well, the rest of me kind of has to compensate for it, you know. Generally a 38 chest. And thin lapels on someone, even with my frame, like I'm, you know, I would say average model or mannequin is like a size 40, maybe 42 on the bigger side. But anything with a thin lapel on my frame just looks tiny. Like the proportions are just off.
Yeah.
Lapels are very much meant to give you some level of proportion.
Yep.
So
that's actually a really good point. I think for women, it is a little bit more fluid in the looks of the jackets too. And so that's tough to apply.
You get a lot more silhouettes than we do.
Yes.
Because you can have stuff that's very, very low hanging and meant to be worn open and drapey.
Right.
But also some stuff that's, you know, a lot more like cut off at the hip versus down at the end of the rear. So there is a lot more fluidity there. And you generally have smaller frames, so you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah, totally.
But we're about at time today. We will definitely be doing not just one, probably infinitely more episodes about this.
I think now I'm going to actively keep my eye out more for fashion faux pas and pet peeves.
It's a bummer. The
and
more
I'm
you
going
know
to start
about
listing it.
Yeah, and honestly, I apologize in advance for anybody who learned something during this episode because you are going to see it everywhere. But it just means that you're going to be able to apply them to your own wardrobe and your own life and look a little bit better.
And I think we learned this the hard way too.
Oh yeah.
You know, there are times where we've probably each gone through one of these things that we've mentioned today.
Let's wrap up with what was your worst fashion faux pas that you can remember.
So I'm going to go back to the first thing that I said. It's underwear lines because I'm so big into this. There was one time, and this was several years ago, I wore, I don't know, normal underwear. The ones that show lines. I don't know what they're called. Like
just underwear.
Just underwear. And I put jeans on and I like didn't even think about it, right? I just like ran out the door because I was in a hurry for something. And I like was shopping and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, oh no. But it was too late. I was like, I can't turn back now. And so, but because I'm so self-conscious about that, of course, I like am deeply mortified and no one else probably thinks about it that much.
Yeah.
So I know that's probably like a very minuscule one at the end of the day, and I'd probably have much worse ones, but I have to really think about it. But I'm just not here for it, and so I do not wear that ever.
Good call.
Yeah.
All right, so mine, I think that I'm a little bit more of a victim of this again lately, just because of that, again, COVID-20. But when I first started dressing, you know, in my head nicely, I was very, very much a slim fit or die kind of guy. As in, if it wasn't painted on, it didn't fit me. And
one of those.
I definitely, you know, we've established this on the podcast before. I had a scene phase. I've always been big into the skinny jeans. Love that kind of stuff. But it doesn't translate as well into professional wear.
Yes.
So having a dress shirt that is like painted onto you where you can't take a full breath without it like gapping your buttons or something like that. That's not the best thing to have. So I would say that also that's both a buying decision that I kind of faltered on in the early days, but also a tailoring decision that I didn't know I could make, as in buying something a little bit bigger and then tailoring it down versus going custom.
That's fair. Also, I just thought about this. All of high school was a big fashion faux pas.
Yeah, I don't think that
So
counts.
I'm not going back to those recesses of my brain. Now that I'm like, oh, those gauchos. Oh
boy. Yeah, we need
before they were back in.
I'm going to bring Jenko jeans back.
Oh, no. No, we're just leaving the mid-2000s where they're at.
All right.
Although Gen Z is trying their darndest to bring it back.
Well, you could do a whole episode just on your hatred. Well, not hatred, maybe disdain for Gen Z's fashion. But you've already alluded to it a couple times in this podcast.
Maybe we'll do another podcast.
That'll be a solo. If I get sick or am out of town or something and you need to record something, you can just come in here and do a rant cast about Gen Z. You can just...
I love Gen Z for who they are, but they weren't born in the 90s. They don't know any better.
I'll let you have your opinions. All right, we're done for the day. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram at Getting Dressed Podcast and message us your personal fashion faux pas. And if you did learn something from this episode, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear how we're helping and also kind of just know that there is some improvement being made to the general style populace. But until next time, I'm Anthony Bolognese.
And I'm Leah Nalepa.
Doses.
Bye.